Peace, you guys. This is number 2, trying to get this out, and it just doesn't want to go. We are at the last chapter in Daniel. That's number 12. All right, Daniel 12. 12 usually is about the idea of hooking up with God, but also it also means to being put into captivity. All right. And so we're at the end. It's a cusp situation where we just came from Daniel 11, where we are being told of this works that we have to do, and that this battle that we have to go through in order to change. And but that this battle that we're fighting against is our nature, and this idea, our human nature, and this stand-in, this woman of the South, this queen of the South. But here we go, right here. We find in this, where is this at? In most fenced cities, as the king of the South starts to take over, of the North starts to take over from the king of the South, or to begin this battle with him. We find here, and this is in the last chapter. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince of his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. So he's going to turn within himself. He's going to offer up this prince that's inside of him. That says the Prince of Peace is, we know as Jesus. We know that as our soul. We know this as God's people and child of God. But anyways, it says, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. So the idea is that if you don't do this, this is what we're talking about, then it can be worse. Or not worse. The thing is that you want to correct this. And you are going to have to spill some blood in order to do this. And this is a sacrifice of the first, of that you have to give God your firstborn. And so, and remember, this is God's people, all right? And this is what it's our only begotten Son, all right? It's our only, because it's something that comes about as the mind. But in this part, the flood's coming, this idea that this is the rise of the Antichrist. This is what they get out of chapter 11. This is the rise of the Antichrist. This guy is not going to like women, so it's got to be a queer of some kind, and that's just ridiculous. It's just where we talk about that men will be lovers of men is because we're going to go, instead of going to womankind, which is to go within ourselves, to this well within us, to go and get our meat and our substance and stuff like that. We go outside of us to a church. We go to some church, some synagogue, someplace or something, and we go there to this outside person to get fed from, and they give us nothing. They give us air, right? But she is this woman of the South, and she's made this pact to have this, that she gets to work with us first. And so, but then there's this one day someone out of a certain group is going to come up, all right? And so that's what the whole end of the story is here on chapter 11, is the one day something's going to happen, and good things are going to happen. And the very last line on this, and he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas and the glorious whole mountain, glorious holy mountain. This is right smack dab in the middle of the two places, the right and the left sides of our brain. This is the tabernacle. That's where this place is. It is basically, I would say that it would wind up being the fornix of the brain. And it's not done yet. The place is still not up. It says here, between, and he will place this in so yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Because this is a meditation process. You're all by yourself. There's nothing else between you and God. It's just you and God. It's just you. You're naked. You're naked. You're drunk off the new wine. You're all alone in this situation. And the final parts of this, Daniel 12, only has 13 works, all right? And it's really beautiful. The way it works out is because you do know that earlier in these stories, earlier in this book, Nebuchadnezzar dreams of this statue, which gives us our four. This idea that the head is the gold, and the body, the arms, and the torso are the silver, and that this is the brass, our lower middle areas, and then the legs wind up being the iron and clay. That's this idea that this is how this whole form, how this even takes form. And in his dream, he gets this last side here smashed and broken. You know, his legs are broken. And he's really afraid of this. But we find out that this is representing the lower side, our consciousness, that when the spiritual side of us, when we first start out in these stories with Nebuchadnezzar and all this here, they're in the Chaldees. And so that means that this area here, which our spiritual side, which Nebuchadnezzar and all these other guys are connected to, the lower mind, is full of robbers and thieves, you know, and they're worshiping things from an outside standpoint. And so this is this idea that Daniel is being shown the ropes, and he's told to write things down. Daniel is writing and keeping everything down, and then right around here he's told to close up the book. And it was like, you know, how this story starts off. The one is about, it's an instruction, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the first 4. And then second is that it's about God's creation, the two things coming together. And I saw the two. This is this idea that I saw two, one on one side of the river and one on the other side of the river. It says, and Daniel asks the guy that's now clothed, because he told him to shut the words up and seal the book. All right, that's the seed, the seed itself that's planted inside of you, inside the dirt, inside the dust. It says here on number 2, right in here in this area, it says, "Many asleep in the dust will awake to everlasting life, or will awake to everlasting contempt." So this idea of the land without water is when Jesus is, or God is not there. And so that would be the one where you have the contempt. But where God or Jesus is, where the watering is, where mother becomes in, then you have everlasting life, where the water would show up. Otherwise, it's a dry spot. The land will be dry. And this one here says, the wise shall shine like the firmament, and the firmament is heaven. And when we get here, is that this is when the stars of heaven fall to earth, and earth is our mind. When this happens, this is when we shine like the firmament of heaven. It's a combination of us now being connected to these things and not being disconnected, because That's the whole point of these stories, is that things become broken. Things become broken and put in half, split in half. So over here at the very end, he's told to shut up the words and seal the book. We've had enough of this. It's about over. It says, and even until the end of times. Leave this until the end of times. And so what we get here on this next part, he's being so in Daniel is looking and he sees two things show up in front of him on one side of the river and one on another side. And he calls out to the guy and he says to the one that comes up out of the water, he says, the guy that's clothed, coming out of the water, clothed is he shut the book and he put a seal on the book. He shut them up. So they got clothes on them now. And he says, how long will it be these wonders? So he's asked this question here. And then he's told, this guy standing in the water says, for a time and times and a half. So he's told. And so he's over here on number 8 at the final one. He says, he heard that, but he didn't understand it. And then he gets up and he asks again, what shall it be the end of these days again? So here he is. He's still, it's even confirmed here. I heard it. I asked it. I heard it. I still don't understand it. And then he asked it again. So it shows he just didn't understand it. He didn't hear it. That's what 8 is. 8 is a conscious number, or not a conscious number, it's a control number. This is the sleep. He has been told to put this away. Put this away. And on 8 is that, when we got slumber, when we got God's slumber, and we have God's word, we can see it, but we just don't understand it. It's telling us, he told us just what was going to happen. And there's times and times and a half. This is, this one gets its time to win for a little while. This one gets its time. And this is the person itself that has to break bread, has to split himself in half to change things and get over to heaven. That's how I'm believing to read that about being times and times and a half. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to run out a certain something in you. You're trying to run. This idea that we're spreading the gospel as we run around asking for Jesus and telling people about Jesus and stuff like that. We're actually bringing people into the flock by going out and believing in Jesus and bringing more people in to I would say the flock, but I would also say that in these situations we're farmers, that we're actually planting more seeds for God to have more people to pick out of. All right? Because many people are just flopping around out there, blowing in the breeze. There's no place for them to root. So in the end here, he heard it, but he doesn't understand it. And then he turns around and asks again. So it's working. It's been put away. All that information that happened between here and the beginning of the book, he was writing and getting all the goods, the whole thing, and now he's lost his mind. And down here on 3, this is when you connect up with God. Here we got God telling him to go on thy way, Daniel. The words have been closed up and sealed till the end of times. Go on with yourself. And then with number 10, it says, many shall be purified. This is usually where we go with the water. So this is where baptism comes in and all this other things. People are going to be made white. They're going to make themselves white to try to produce for themselves for this end of time scenario. But they're going to make themselves white. And this idea that, but this would be wicked, because this is like a situation where you're using God's, you're not listening to the statutes. You're not going inside. You're sticking to the strange woman, the woman of the South, or the queen of the South. And she's wicked, and she's got these things that come against you. And this is where, because you're making yourself white, and you're exalting your own self, these situations is that you're worshiping yourself more along this lines, because when you're worshiping Father, you're worshiping your own mind, you're worshiping yourself. You're the one that gets all the goods, you're the one that's getting everything. This is where you are worshiping yourself. Now when you get over and you start worshiping God, when you start just worshiping God, you'll find that there's none of this bowing and bullshit going on. You're not in that situation anymore. To worship God is to connect to him, connect to God, and then let God's light shine through you. You're not God, but God works through you now. All right. So in the situations down here, we get this on 11, which 11 is representing a 2. 2 is representing this whole situation where it's about the body, right? How long shall this end? How long will these wonders take? This is what he's asked. He says it's going to take times and times and a half. And he says, I understand. I heard, but I don't understand. Go about your way, Daniel, till the end of times. This is how it'll work. And men will purify themselves, and they won't get anywhere. They'll still be wicked. And the division there'll be some people that go up. This is where this desolation is set up, and the abomination that causes desolation is set up within the body. The grievous head wound is put into place. Mother is taken out. That's the whole point of this. And it'll be there for a good long time. This is 12. 129 is a 12. Until the end of times. That's what this 12 is. This 12 here is about works. So this is about being like a captivity, because the 3 is to do your works first. And now over here on number 12, this is blessed is he who waiteth. And that waiting time becomes a 12 too, but this is the 12 that sets you free, because you have the one that is given you into captivity because of the abominations. Abomination just means that there's no mother involved. That's where all of the problems come by, and the desolation. There's an empty spot in you. This is the broken side, because we come in without mother. We come in a broken home already, and a house divided against itself falls. And so this is this idea that this situation falls. There's no way to fix yourself. There's no connection to God whatsoever. It's been taken away. And over here at the very end on number 4, the last one is said here. There's only one. It says, but go thy way till the end, for thou shalt rest, and thou shalt stand in thy lot at the end of days. So it may go on with yourself, but the lot that he's talking about is that when you're done, you stand in this place. This is where you stand, this isolated, the desolation. You are going to stand in that place, and that's where you're going to meditate towards God. And this is where Mother will come in and take over this spot. And it's a meditation move where your mind goes dark, and the moon can't shine her light anymore, which means it can no longer affect you. The effects of this arbiter, this person, this thing that came between you and God is gone. And it's even turned red. Red is talking about this idea that of mother and the wine. It's turned red. She's taken over. The stars fall from heaven to earth. This is where we get our brightening from here, where we get the wise shall shine like the firmament. And it also talks about teaching other people how to bring the same light on in the same place, like becoming a teacher. That person who does this is going to become a teacher. And then over here, of course, on the end is just shut thy words up in thy book. This is just the coolest stuff, and it works so perfectly with our number system, absolutely perfectly. At the very end, blessed is he that waiteth for that 12. This idea that we have to do our works first. Go about this. Go on with Daniel. Many people will try this, and they'll be tried and true. They're going to do this. This is for God's sake. You're going to follow the word. You're going to follow the letter, and you're going to follow it to the letter. And this is going to be your trespasses. This is what's going to happen. This is what they're telling us. They got to give us over to the bitch for a while. And this is where we learn all about God. And that's how we also spread it over and get more people involved and more people. And try to get more and more people to be in this great big field that God's planted, because this is the only field that he pulls people out of. Wow. I am so glad. I am absolutely just so flabbergasted that I pursued this, that I pursued God, and that I pursued this church, these people, and everything in my past that had led to this place, to this point. I absolutely adore them, but I'm not going to work for them. I hope you got something out of this. I really do. I hope you did.